I can't believe it's been 5 years since I created Gigi the Garden Girl here on YouTube. This channel is like a visual diary of my ups, my downs, and everything in between in the gardening world. Today, let's take a look back from January 2019 to January 2024. But before we do that, I just wanted to say thank you for all of your support, words of encouragement, guidance, and advice over the years. For anyone new here, my name is Bren and I'm an avid home gardener. My accent may throw you off the scent because I live in New South Wales, Australia, on this block of land which is almost half an acre in size. We moved to this property in 2008. The garden was mostly grass, as you can see, with a few mature trees and shrubs. But as soon as we moved in, I got straight into gardening with my dreams of turning it into a productive and beautiful space full of fruit, veg, and flowers. I only did a little at a time. There were no major transformations at this period of my life because it was full of other things like pregnancies, babies, toddlers, madness. So there wasn't much space or time to potter around in my garden. I got a bit done a little bit at a time, setting kind of realistic goals and realizing that cardboard was my friend. No more digging out grass, let the cardboard do the work for me. So I was gardening at home here for about 11 years before I started to share it online. Actually, I think I started Instagram the year before I launched or started my YouTube channel. What am I like saying launched? And you know, I think I started it because I was craving a community of like-minded people. Others who were really into this hobby of gardening that I could just share my passion with. I try to practice organic gardening as much as I can, and what I love is that I can grow fruit and veg that aren't necessarily available in the shops, like these Kiwana fruit. They are so delicious. They taste like a cross between a ripe banana and a passion fruit. And then of course, growing so much food, I did have excess, so I got into preserving food too. Now, I am certainly not very good at this, but I try. That's the way I look at everything. I try and be a sustainable gardener and person in general, but you know, there's other people out there that would just like blow my mind if I saw what they achieve, and I'm just not at that level. But you know, we all do our best. Oh yeah, and I just wanted to show you these few garden fails from neglect, whether it be from garden pests or just generally not really knowing what I'm doing at all. But another thing I try to focus on in my garden is attracting beneficial insects, because I know they're really important when you're trying to organic garden, trying to create a good ecosystem. So what I used here, for example, was an old CD rack, and I just filled it up with some natural bits and pieces, trying to attract in some predatory insects. Is that what you call them now? See, I don't really know what I'm talking about half the time. This was fun to put together, and then I was thinking about how can I help feed the wildlife, so I created this upcycled bird bath, and then the little pebbles in there were for the bees, and I also made this marble bee bath too, so they can get a little sip and not drown in the water. And I think it's helped because I have noticed a huge amount of bees, a lot more than there used to be in the garden. Now, it's not just because I give them the water, it's because I try and have plenty of flowers for them too. But I just love seeing creatures like beautiful butterflies. That one was a bit injured, unfortunately. I'm not sure what happened to it. And then this, oh, I'll never forget the day I came out and checked out this plant to see it being absolutely covered in ladybugs. And then these ones are another type of ladybug, which I've spoken about before. They eat the powdery mildew. I also try and do composting. So anyway, that year in 2019, that was the first year that I'm showing you. I decided to enter a garden competition. I was very nervous about it, but it was a challenge for me. I was, trying to get a lot more native flowers and plants in too, just because I know the importance of them, and they do help out the native wildlife. So I have a big selection in my garden, which I'm pretty happy with. And I've actually learned, before we got this property, I wasn't mad about some native plants because I thought they looked very scraggly, like leggy, and not great form. But I've since realized that it's really important to prune them after flowering, and that kind of keeps their shape really well. Now, one of my favorite native flowers is the wattle flower in spring. Oh, the smell, I wish I could bottle it up. I'm sure there is perfume out there for the wattle flowers. And I also like these too. This is the native mint bush. It has a beautiful aroma, and I love the color of those little dainty flowers. So I also am really into upcycling. I hope I'm not waffling, I feel like I am. I was given the opportunity to have all of these old biscuit tins, and I thought I could make a nice display out of them. So having said all of that, I was so happy in 2019. I actually won the garden competition for best environmentally sustainable garden. It absolutely made my day. But then the year on after that, I think that was in about October, things got tough in the garden. We went through drought. There was very severe water restrictions. We were only allowed water using buckets, and I had to be very select with the plants that I grew. A lot of them struggled, even when I did try and water them, because around this time too, and I know many of you may remember, there were extreme bushfires along the east coast of Australia, so it was affecting New South Wales and Victoria. I think Queensland was all right. But we had so much smoke in the air for weeks. And then all the little fires kind of merged together to make this one massive one. Now, I know some of you watching this did lose your homes, and ours was fine. We did end up evacuating. It wasn't a mandatory evacuation, but just did not feel comfortable because this day, look at it, the sky was black. There was the helicopters overhead. I think that helicopter was the one that was taking, the water out of the pools and trying to put it over the fire. Yeah, so that was a struggle that year, but little did I know what was coming. I wished for rain, and rain certainly came. A lot of it. So we have had floods previously here in my area, but after these bushfires and the droughts, it was extreme rain where there was big puddles all around the garden, and I did lose some of my dahlia tubers and other plants to that. But I just keep on carrying on. That's my motto. Like, I don't want to give up. This is part of living here in this beautiful country. There's so much diversity. The weather can be extreme, but the rewards that you get from the garden is absolutely amazing. Like here, I'm able to grow such a wide range of fruit and veg because of the climate I live in. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it every day. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to say, I did mention it once before. I actually made a TV show with the help of one of my friends. It aired in Melbourne and Geelong, and then over in Adelaide. So that was called Gigi the Garden Girl. It was a great experience. I really enjoyed producing it. I learned quite a lot. Now, I couldn't let this video go by without showing you these Icelandic poppies from a couple of years back. Oh, I just absolutely love them so much. I do what am I saying? I enjoy growing poppies, but that year the Icelandic ones were just stunning. Now, so what year are we in now? We're in 2020, and we all know what happened in 2020, but something else happened this year. We all know I love growing flowers. I always struggle between which I prefer more, the flowers or the food. And you can kind of tell that sometimes with my sporadic planting in the garden. Anyway, I love edible flowers too. Here are a few examples of what I do with them. And of course, I enjoy growing lots of wonderful food. So I got approached to be in the Gardening Australia magazine, which was so exciting. I couldn't believe it. And it was all about the flowers that I grow in my garden. And yeah, so I was in the October issue, I think, of 2020. At the time when I showed you this, I didn't actually show you the article because I think I got this in advance. So now I'm going to just go through, have a quick flick through the pages and show you what they put in. Lots of photos. There's some beautiful cosmos flowers. I think it was around 3 or 4 page spread. Now after that, this happened. We had a freak storm. I swear it was like a little tornado or something. Oh, absolute pure destruction in my garden. We got massive hailstones. Like, look at the size of them. It was like the garden went through a shredder. Everything got absolutely messed up. So October is, I think that's mid-spring. So as you can imagine, the garden was flourishing at that time, and then it just got destroyed. So I kept going, like we all do here in Australia when the weather is so mean to us. Can I say that? I started sowing again, and I had plans, and those plans were that I was going to start selling the flowers that I grow here in my garden. It was something I was thinking about doing for a few years. I did my research, and I know, agriculture, selling food and plants, it's never going to make you rich, but that's not why I did it. I did it because I'm growing these flowers anyway, and I thought I might as well sell some, make a little bit of money, and then I can use that money to put back into my garden to buy, say these are gladiolus. I could buy some more gladiolus corms. I love growing these in summertime. I've actually got some outside now at the moment. I haven't shown you yet. Maybe in next week's video we'll take a look at them. Although they are not as pretty as the ones here because we have been getting a bit of rain, and the petals are so delicate on these blooms that they've kind of like shriveled up a bit and brown. So I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to use them in my arrangements. So this is the area I converted from grass into long flower beds, and the cheeky chucks got in, scratched around. It's my own fault. I let them do it. I think they're part of the garden too. We'll take a look at them a bit longer. So here is my logo I put together. And what I did last year, I sold flowers at my local garden centre. I also had a couple of customers who would order on a regular basis, on a weekly basis, and then I took additional orders too. But I found it very hard judging how many flowers I would have from week to week, and this is something I'm still learning even now. It's really tricky to know, and that is because there's so many variables, the main one being the weather. We get some seriously mad storms like that one I showed you. We've never had it as extreme as that now, I have to say, but we do get storms with hailstones, and they have wrecked crops like flowers in the past, and I'm sure they will in the future. So that is something I'm really just trying to figure out. I would love to be able to do a subscription flower service where maybe I have 20 people who get a bouquet a month from me, but I just don't have that confidence yet, and maybe I need to bite the bullet and next year just go for it and do that. And and if I don't have the flowers, potentially I could just buy them from a wholesaler to bulk up what I do have or what I have grown in the garden. Although doing that, it's not, you don't know if those plants or flowers will be organic. Oh, it's too many decisions to make. I have spoken about the flowers a lot, What I'm thinking of doing now, I'm going to show you some videos I've made for my TikTok account, Gigi the Garden Girl. I started that back in 2019 and it's done pretty well. I have shared a few videos on here on my YouTube channel, especially since they started the shorts, but I'm not sure yet. I don't know if you could do videos over a minute long, and I do have a few of them. So let's go and take a look at some garden harvests that I've done over the years. These are in no particular order, but we'll start off with this one. Let's fill this basket up with goodies from my garden. We'll start off down here. I have lots of these button squash. You do have to go rooting around for them because the foliage is so large, it tends to cover them up. Whoops, this one's a bit bigger than they should be. The flesh at this size can get a little bit too firm. Oh, this one here looks a lot better. Let me take it off and we can compare them. See the difference in size there? Next up, I have some red capsicums, but unfortunately, they're not all looking the best. Oh, did you see all the water come out of that one? This one has been badly damaged. I'm not sure from what, maybe some pests or something, but that one will probably, well, what am I going on about? This section here will go into the compost bin and I might be able to rescue the back of it. I'm so happy with these. Next up, I'm going to pick a bunch of tomatoes. So this one here is called Lucid Gem. These ones are called Ram's Horn. I was just trying to open up the bag and they fell off the vine. There they are. Oh my goodness, I better hurry up because this rain is unreal. This one is a Berkeley tie-dye, some bumblebees, an orange capsicum. Oh, how good does that one look? But how bad does this one look? The pest damage has been terrible this summer. I've got quite a few of these lemon cucumbers. I'm going to cut one open to show you what it looks like on the inside. Despite their name, I don't think they've got any lemon flavour. Okay, let's get this one open. Oh, there we go. See, not really very special on the inside. It looks pretty similar to a Lebanese cucumber, just a different shape. I mentioned a little bit earlier that when we first moved in here, there was a few mature trees, and actually a number of them were fruit trees, one being this orange, which is an absolute amazing producer of fruit. Every year, the harvest just gets bigger and better. Actually, that's not true, except for that year that we had the freak storm. Half the tree got chopped. And I think it was in October, so a lot of the fruit had already set and they got knocked off. So we did have a year where we had no oranges. But yeah, I'm getting a little bit more creative with how I use them because there's only so much orange juice a family can drink. So here what I did was I used my dehydrator, cut up some slices, and they turned out quite well. I used a few of these for a garland. I also enjoy preserving tomatoes. I do prefer them fresh, but sometimes you've got more than you can eat, like with the oranges. Not as much as the oranges though. So here, what I did with these ones, I think they were Romas. I made just like a tomato sauce. I'm trying to remember, did I put some in jars? I think I did. This is a quick pickle. And then here are some unripened tomatoes, and I thought I don't want them to go to waste, so I made some green tomato relish or chutney, which was nice. Not my favourite, but I'm glad I used them up. Here's another recipe. I'm going to harvest a selection of capsicums, starting with these bullhorns. Next variety are these sweet banana capsicums. Next are golden wonders and a few of these mad hatters. It's now time to roast. I've left them whole and placed the smaller capsicums on one tray and the larger ones on another. Once they're roasted, place them straight into a bowl, then cover with cling wrap. After 30 minutes, remove all the skin and all of the seeds. Then add salt and pepper. Place all of these in a jar. Add some garlic. Top up with some olive oil. Until your capsicums are covered, you're finished. I've put together here a few photos of some of the harvests I've done over the years. I was more into photography when I used to post on Instagram. I haven't been doing it as much. I am trying to, be more mindful to take more photos because I know how transient a garden is, and just because you can grow something one year, you may never be able to grow it again for some reason or another. And now what you're looking at here is the garden a bit more cleaner. This is from a while ago, but I just wanted to take a look at these raised beds. I do enjoy growing in raised beds, but sometimes I feel like there's too much focus on them at the moment. You don't need a raised bed to have a raised garden. You can actually just create a mound. Now these ones I bought from Bunnings, they were quite cheap, but I actually had to replace quite a number of these because they rusted too quick. Okay, so we're going to move on now to some more upcycle ideas that I enjoy being creative with. So this is an old toolbox. You just saw an old suitcase. Then I noticed a lot of people for council pickup throw out their old tools, so I decided to use them to make garden signs, like this dahlia dozing. This is my dahlia patch of tubers I didn't dig up. Instead of throwing out the old garden hose, I upcycled it into a trellis using this frame, which is a fly screen frame over the windows. I also used a candle holder, made it into this bird bath, which you can see there amongst the nasturtium foliage. I know somebody who's an electrician, so I got this reel off him and turned it into this kind of quirky little table for the kids. Here's another idea that you might like. I've got balls, lots of balls, but this one is going into retirement. Cut an opening on the top, 3 holes on the bottom for drainage and 2 on either side up here. Thread some wire through these, bend the wire over on the inside to hold it in place. It should look like this. Then I fill it up with potting mix, pop in this potted colour. I think I've scored with this one. We seem to go through a lot of soccer and basketballs because my kids are really into those two sports. So I do try and repair them, but somehow they get completely damaged. So I think that's one good way of using them. Next up, what I want to show you is how to make beeswax wraps, which is something I enjoy making, but I don't use them all the time. These beeswax wraps are an eco alternative to plastic cling wrap. Easy to make. Get a piece of 100% cotton material and some beeswax blend blocks. I purchased these, but you can make your own. Next, grate them. They look very similar to cheese, but much stickier. Put your cloth on a baking tray and with these grated pieces, place them over the top. Then put them into a preheated oven at 180 degrees Celsius for between 3 and 5 minutes. Keep an eye on it. Now the wax is melted, be careful, it's really hot. Wave it around for a minute until set. I'm wrapping a sandwich with it. These wraps are reusable. Wipe them down with cold soapy water, rinse and then dry. It lasts about 12 months and then you can compost it. Back in the day, when I first started to garden here, I was on a tight budget and I love thinking of creative ways to save money. So I used to use these toilet roll holders as pots, and then I had some other little bits and pieces that I've shared with you over the years. Now, as well as having me in the garden, we do have some little friends that hang out in the garden too. Not just the wildlife, but the chucks. Here's Snowflake. I think she's running away from me. She never lets me hold her for some reason, but she does like her watermelon. So we started off with 3 Australorps, and then, unfortunately over the years, some of them, they passed away. And here is Autumn. Oh, I just loved Autumn. Such a kind chicken, so nice to Snowflake, because the others used to pick on Snowflake and Autumn would really stick up for her. Snowflake's still around. She's a good girl, but she likes to keep to herself. She doesn't like snuggles as much. But this girl loves to get snuggles, very easy to hold, and she loves like a little stroke on her back. Here's a few more clips of the garden over the years for you to enjoy. Time now for another garden harvest. Come join me on a garden harvest in my backyard food pantry. Let's start off by picking a bunch of these cucamelons. They're growing like crazy all along here. Next up, I have this Casper eggplant, and down here's a Thai one too. I've got a couple of these hill country okras. There's not lots at the moment, but there'll be plenty more to harvest very soon. There's a big bunch of these king purple beans, Lebanese cucumbers, Thai pink egg tomatoes. There's big rainbow and some laced gem tomatoes. Oh wow, look at this one. It did get a little bit of damage there, but I'll be able to cut that section out. The rest of it is looking great. I've got lots more of these banana peppers. There's sweet reds. The basket is getting pretty full. I just want to grab a couple of these jalapenos and we will finish off picking a bunch of flowers. How about some of these zinnias? It's time to head inside and get creative in the kitchen. We are so fortunate in this part of Australia, in the area I live, that we can actually grow food all year round. So a lot of the cold hardy crops continue to grow during the cooler months. Maybe they stop or slow down for maybe 3 or 4 weeks, but in general, I do always see growth. Like here, I've got some lovely cauliflower, different types of beet. This is a rare variety, an Italian heirloom called Chioggia beet. Speaking of winter, here's a harvest I did during that season. Let's do a garden harvest. Starting off with some oranges. Heaps of this purple mizuna. Here I've got some green mizuna too. I've got heaps of these beautiful looking gourds. They're all over the place. As I clear out garden beds, I just find more and more of them. Got a few peppers. Can you believe that we still have peppers? And it's winter time here in Australia. Absolutely crazy. I've also still got tomatoes. Just beautiful. Snowflake has come over. She's eyeing up that basket. They're not for you, Missy Moo. And there are still a lot of these cucamelons to harvest. And finally, some turmeric. There we go. I'm going to use some of these to make some gorgeous tea. It smells good. I feel very fortunate to have such a large space to be able to grow vining crops, especially those that produce fruit that may be too heavy to grow vertically. Like these TVARI melons would be all right grown vertically, but that pumpkin I just showed you, it would just like break the trellis. It's too heavy. This is a lovely heirloom melon that I grew one year along with a watermelon. I actually have a garden harvest that I want to show you now, which is a mix of vine and crops. Fresh food straight from my garden. I'm starting off today's harvest with this pimply squash. I've never seen or tasted one of these before. I'm delighted that I gave it a go this year. Next is this Japanese Fitsu pumpkin. I think it might be just a little bit too cute to eat. I've also got this watermelon. It hasn't completely ripened. I'm not really quite sure what to do with this. Down here I have some kiwanis. It usually takes these guys all summer to ripen, and I start to harvest them in autumn. There's another spiky edible growing in here. These West Indian gherkins. I'll finish off today with a few oranges. One year I went nuts on growing heirloom tomatoes. I think it was in 2020. I dedicated an entire section to the tomato plants. It looked a little bit like a tomato plant forest. They were everywhere you looked, in every direction. But boy, it was worth it. It was so fun, and it was really interesting to see which varieties do well here in my climate, because some tomatoes are indeterminate while others are determinate, and the size can make a difference too. I have noticed, like, tomatoes are quite susceptible to powdery mildew here. So that patch was a bit of work because I had to do quite a lot of pruning, but it was worth it. These are actually a bunch of golden nugget pumpkins, but the interesting thing is that they don't look exactly like the way they do on the packet, and that is because I believe, you see them there behind this pimply squash, I believe that they were a cross or something. I never ended up saving any seeds after that year. I kind of wish I had continued it because they tasted delicious, but they looked really cool. Here's a pumpkin recipe. It's soup time. I'm going to pick this Queensland Blue and I'll add a spoonful of this Aussie Classic. So I like to roast my pumpkin first. I give them a light spray with canola oil, then season with salt and pepper. They're now ready for the oven. In the meantime, I'll brown off some celery, carrots and onion. Once that's done, it's time for the Vegemite. I'll add this into 2 litres of hot water, using a whisk to help it dissolve. Do you know, before moving to Australia, I had never tried pumpkin or Vegemite before. Vegemite is a great substitute for beef stock. Simmer this for 20 minutes. So now with your roasted pumpkin, I scoop out all the flesh into a bowl, then add it all to your stock mix. Blend it up. It smells so good. It's like a bowl full of hugs. I'm telling you, on a cold winter's day, you just can't beat a bowl of warm, hearty, comforting soup. What you're looking at here now is the lemon tree, which unfortunately isn't in this location anymore. It had to be moved because we are renovating. I'll give you an update on that soon. Hopefully it will pull through. It's looking okay. Now I've got some broccoli here. Let me show you this harvest. Garden harvest time. Let's start off with some broccoli. We're going to eat every part of this plant, except for this section, obviously. We've got the leaves, the head, and what I think is the most delicious part, this stem. I've got a couple of lemons. This is the really bumpy one. It's time for this entire peppermint silver beet to come out. Got it. I'm thinking of making some spinach and ricotta cannelloni with this. I'm going to have to grab the cart because this is way too much food to put into a tiny basket. Look at this. It's celery. That was not easy getting out. Look at the size of it. It had this huge root system. This lot is going to keep me busy today. I think at this stage I've given you a bit of an overview of what it's been like here in the garden over the last few years. We're now moving on to the present day. These are some gorgeous Rebecca, and I want to show you something. This is the garden about a year and a half ago. It is now looking like, well, it is a building site because we're putting on an extension. So there's been a lot of change in the garden. I'm actually quite excited about the future because it gives me that opportunity to recreate new garden beds. But for the moment, I'm gardening on a smaller scale. I'm growing and experimenting with different varieties in pots, whether that be beautiful flowers that will attract the pollinators. I'm just kind of trying to do everything on a smaller scale, still growing food, not in as high quantities. Now, I'm pretty pleased with how it's turning out so far. The other thing I've been doing is I've been continuing with growing my business Brand's Blooms. Actually, I don't know if you would say growing, because I think it's kind of like stayed the same this year, because I just haven't had the same space, you know, to develop it and expand, and maybe I haven't had the time to put so much work into it because we have been doing so much renovations. But oh guys, those of you who are regular viewers, look at these. They're the zinnias I picked from the new flower garden, which I use this week in my bunches of flowers for my small business Brand's Blooms. They turned out absolutely lovely, so whimsical, fluffy. Hopefully now all of these bunches will sell. So this is where I'm going to end the video. Thank you for watching. I know it was quite long. I hope some of you stuck around until the end. And thanks again. I know I mentioned it at the start of the video, but thank you for all your support over the years. And you know, I look forward to see you again next Friday. I was thinking of adding in a section about, you know, my plans for the future, but I just can't see beyond the renovations at the minute. Like, I have a few ideas on what I want to do in the garden, but nothing definite, nothing solid. I think once the renovations are finished, I think what I'll be planning out is some more perennial plants, so it's less high maintenance with all the annuals. You know, I love the annuals, but oh geez, they're hard work. Okay, so I better go get this video out to you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next Friday.